A couple of weeks ago, I was the only Cornwall councillor not to support the setting up of an advisory group set up on the premise that school rules are having a devastating effect on children's mental health and well-being. And over the weekend, I've been reading some news reports where Cornwall Live appear to be patting themselves on the back for forcing a position where multi-academy school trusts providing really good educational outcomes for children in Cornwall now face an uncertain future. So I've come on here to talk about why I voted as I did and why I don't feel that the collapse of a successful academy trust is anything to celebrate. So firstly, it's important to say that I do welcome the fact that Cornwall Council is taking the mental health and emotional well-being of children seriously, because it's an issue that deserves careful attention. However, I'm going to offer a different perspective on this increasingly common claim that school discipline policies are a major cause of poor mental health among young people. Are schools creating the problem, or are schools increasingly being asked to manage problems that originate elsewhere? Right across society, we're seeing rising levels of anxiety, emotional fragility, behavioural difficulties, poor sleep, excessive screen use and social media dependency, family instability, less opportunities for children to play, exercise and develop resilience. These trends aren't unique to Cornwall, and they're not unique to schools with strong behaviour policies. They're societal challenges affecting children everywhere, and yet too often the conversation focuses on schools as though rules, detentions and consequences are somehow responsible for the difficulties children experience. Schools have always had rules, and they've always expected children to arrive on time, follow instructions, respect others and complete their work. And these aren't oppressive demands, they are basic expectations of any functioning community, and more importantly, they're the very skills that children will need throughout their adult life. We seem to have reached this point where any discomfort is viewed as harm, a detention's being treated as a crisis, being told no is interpreted as emotional damage, and yet learning to cope with disappointment, boundaries and consequences isn't harmful, it's essential for healthy development. Lots of teachers are reporting that behaviours increasingly attributed to complex psychological causes often reflect something more simple: a lack of boundaries, structures and consistent expectations. Of course, it's really important to point out that genuine neurodevelopmental conditions and mental health difficulties exist, and those children deserve appropriate support. But we should be cautious about assuming that every behavioural challenge is evidence that schools are failing to meet a child's needs. Teachers can't undo in 6 hours of the school day what may be happening during the other 18. They can't compensate for chronic sleep deprivation, unlimited screen time, poor routines, family stress, or a culture that increasingly struggles to say no to children. And those issues aren't created by schools, and they can't be solved by schools alone. This distinction matters not only for children's well-being, but also for the future financial sustainability of local government. Across the country, councils, including Cornwall Council, are facing unprecedented financial pressures. And one of the fastest growing areas of expenditure is the cost of supporting children with special educational needs and disabilities. including specialist school placements, education, health and care plans, and the real biggie, home to school transport. In many cases, children must be transported long distance each day by private taxi because suitable provision is not available locally. And these are statutory duties that councils must fund regardless of any other pressures on their budgets. At the same time, many local authorities, in fact the majority of them, including Cornwall Council, are warning of severe financial instability. Our council tax continues to rise, yet residents often see reductions in other local services because an increasing proportion of council spending is committed to meeting the legal obligations such as SEND provision, homeschool transport. Every pound spent responding to rising demand is a pound that can't be invested elsewhere. And that's why this debate matters to all of us taxpayers. If we incorrectly identify the causes of rising mental health concerns and behavioural difficulties, we risk investing in even greater sums treating the symptoms rather than addressing the causes. If wider societal issues, family instability, excessive screen use, poor sleep, declining resilience, reduced physical activity and inconsistent boundaries are driving increasing need, then blaming school behaviour policies won't improve children's well-being, and nor will it relieve the growing financial pressure on local authorities. Most taxpayers are more than willing to support children with genuine disabilities and complex needs. I know I am, and I, like you, expect those children to receive the help that they deserve. But taxpayers also have a legitimate interest in ensuring that public money is spent addressing root causes wherever possible, rather than continually expanding systems that respond only after problems have become entrenched. You know, many successful schools demonstrate that children often flourish when expectations are clear and consistent, and adults are prepared to enforce boundaries fairly. Structure creates safety, predictability reduces anxiety. High expectations communicate confidence in a child's ability to succeed. So the danger is, if we conclude that school discipline is responsible for poor mental health, we may weaken one of the very protective factors that many children need most: stable routines and clear expectations and consistent adult leadership. The real challenge facing Cornwall is not whether schools have rules and how strict they are. The real challenge is how we rebuild resilience, responsibility, self-regulation and respect for boundaries across society as a whole. Schools should absolutely be part of that conversation, but they shouldn't be made the scapegoat for problems that they didn't create. If this Cornwall Council advisory group is going to make a lasting difference, it must be prepared to look beyond the school gates and examine the wider social, cultural and family factors that are shaping children's lives. And that is where meaningful and lasting solutions will be found. And there's an even bigger question that should concern all of us. What kind of adults are we preparing today's children to become? Recent figures show that more than 1 million young people aged between 16 to 24 in the UK are now NEETs. That's not in education, employment or training. The highest number for more than a decade. This represents around 1 in 8 young people. 1 in 8 young people. Economists estimate that youth economic inactivity is costing the UK economy around £27 billion every year in lost productivity. Of course, There are many reasons why a young person might become a NEET, and I understand this as a parent of a 21 and 22-year-old. So I know it's important to avoid simplistic explanations. But surely one thing is clear. We can't continue producing generations of young people who struggle to cope with the ordinary demands of education, employment, and adult life. School is by its very nature a preparation for adulthood. It teaches children to arrive on time, work with others, meet deadlines, accept feedback, respect rules, and persevere even when tasks are difficult or unenjoyable. And those aren't merely school rules, they are life skills. If our response to every challenge is to remove expectations rather than help children meet them, we risk leaving them less prepared for the realities of adult life. Employers can't remove deadlines. Universities can't eliminate challenges. Life will always involve disappointment, setbacks, and responsibility. And that is why resilience matters. It's not about expecting children to struggle alone or denying support to those with genuine needs. It's about equipping young people with the confidence, self-regulation, and perseverance to overcome life's inevitable difficulties. If we weaken those foundations by suggesting that normal boundaries and reasonable expectations are in themselves harmful, then we risk unintentionally contributing to a generation less equipped to participate fully in education, employment, and society. And that is not only a concern for schools, it is a concern for every taxpayer, every employer, and every community in Cornwall.